There are many reasons to be a fan of bourbon, and maybe the most important is it is an economic winner for the state of Kentucky and specifically for the city of Louisville. If you're a fan of the best, then there's no question it is Michter's Bourbon, which has two distilleries right here in Louisville, Kentucky. We'll talk about that with the president of Michter's, and that is Joe Magliocco. Joe, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on today. It's great to be here.
Okay, best of the best. I'm going to start off on a positive note, and you earned it. 2023, you were named the most admired whiskey in the world, and no U.S. whiskey, no U.S. bourbon has ever achieved that. Tell me a little bit about that, because that's huge.
Yeah, we were really thrilled about that, and I also think it's just great for the American whiskey business in general, because it was the first time that an American whiskey company had ever received that award. And basically, it's an academy of voters from over 23 different, I think 23 or so countries around the world. It's whiskey educators, it's journalists, it's people in the industry. And as I said, it's the first time ever for an American whiskey company. And I think that really shows a growing recognition for American quality abroad, but specifically for Michter's, for us, we were just thrilled. We have a really hardworking, very talented team that puts out hopefully some really good stuff, and I'm very happy for them.
Very, very good stuff. Let's talk a little bit about your history. On your bottle, it says US 1.
Yes.
And that's not any kind of a branding gimmick. It means something. So tell me a little bit about US 1 and why it's so important. That designation is so important.
Well, I mean, first of all, we're proud of the United States, and that's part of the reason why we put US 1 on. But Michter's has a long history, and the legacy actually traces back to 1753, America's first whiskey company, which was founded actually in Pennsylvania, not in Kentucky. And it was founded by a Swiss Mennonite farmer, John Schenk. The little Pennsylvania distillery changed its name to Bomberger's in the 1800s, when guess who ate Bomberger bought it? And it wasn't until the 1950s that it became known as Michter's. And a gentleman, Lou Foreman, was the main owner and running it. And a lot of people think it's a German name. It's not. He had two children, Michael and Peter, put the name together, Michter's. They made some really great whiskey, but the American whiskey industry went through a real, almost a depression in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And Pennsylvania Michter's unfortunately failed and went bankrupt in '89. And then in the 1990s, our group, was able to acquire the brand. We became the owner of the brand for $245 because nobody wanted it at that point. But we had no whiskey, no formulas, no packaging, nothing. But I had a great advisor, Dick Newman. Dick had run Old Taylor, Old Crow, and Old Grandad for National Distillers. And then he later became president of Austin Nichols, the maker of Wild Turkey in those days. And Dick said to me, Joe, if you're going to restart this brand and if you want to be one of the best someday, you got to play with the best, and there's no place like Kentucky. And so we restarted the brand in Kentucky, and it was really, Pennsylvania is a great state, and while we gave a lot of thought about restarting in Pennsylvania, I just, thank goodness every day that we came to Kentucky, because it's been a real blessing.
Joe, it's an amazing story, and I think really what makes the story incredible is that you have somewhat, it's not a mission statement, but whether it's time, you have told me, whether it's time or money, we just want to make the best. That's something you're committed to, and when I meet your employees, they're committed as well. Talk to me a little bit about that philosophy, because for a lot of businesses, that just would not work. But I think in this one specifically, why do you think it works?
Well, look, I think ultimately any business is about the people, and we have just amazing people that I feel so fortunate to work with every day. And again, I'm not a production person. I try to sell the stuff. But our production team just puts out, I think, really stuff that we're quite proud of. And, we always say, whether we're doing it or not, you can debate that, whether we're doing it or not, the goal is to produce the greatest American whiskey. That's what we're trying for, and regardless of cost. And, we take a lot of extraordinary steps, and I could bore you to death for 2 hours with technical stuff.
But no shortcuts.
No, we really don't. And, for example, in 2022, we didn't release any 10-year bourbon at all. And that's because our master of maturation, Andrea Wilson, and our master distiller, Dan McKee, said, even though this whiskey is 13 and a half years old already, and I thought the whiskey tasted great. You can put older whiskey than the age statement in the bottle. You can't put younger.
Okay.
But the whiskey that we were going to bottle as 10-year-old in 2022 was actually 13 and a half years old. But they said, if you let us hold it one more year, it's going to be just unbelievable. And so we let them do it. And I'm fortunate. My partners, share the same philosophy, and they said to us, whatever you do to make the whiskey better, don't worry about your cost of goods sold. If we were a just-in-time operation, 10 years in a day, you bottle the whiskey and you get your money back for it. But it turned out that Andrea and Dan were right. The reception when we finally released it a year later was just off the charts, incredible. And they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, if you had stockholders, they would say, no, you've got to sell it. It's good already. Everyone's claiming it's excellent, but you made it even better. That's a great story and very indicative of what you search for, what your goal is. Okay, Congress named bourbon. They said it is the native spirit. Yeah, I think for a couple of reasons. Of course, the heritage and the legacy and being made here in America, but also the economic engine that it is for America. I was reading 23,000 employees, 357 million in taxes that the bourbon industry brings in. So the economic engine that is the bourbon industry, talk about that a little bit, Joe, because I don't know if it's a point of pride for you, but to me it's like you're employing a lot of people, nice paying jobs. I mean, this is good.
Yeah, no, it's just great. And when you travel around the world, bourbon is the quintessential American spirit. As I think a lot of people know, and I think you probably know and have heard, 95% of the world's bourbon comes from one state, Kentucky. Now, you can make bourbon and call it bourbon in Alaska, and they do, and in Florida, and they do, and any one of the United States, and they do, but 95% of it comes from Kentucky. And that's because I think, you can talk about the climate here being really good for aging. You could talk about the limestone water being wonderful to distill with, and both of those are true. But, you just have whiskey resources and whiskey people in Kentucky and in Louisville especially, which has just been an amazingly great home for Michters. You have people and whiskey resources here that you just don't have anywhere else in the world. And it's really been great to see what an economic, engine it's been. And, we have people visit us. We have 2 distilleries in Louisville. We have Michter Shively, obviously in the Shively section of Louisville. We have about a 12-acre plus campus there. And then we also have Michter's Fort Nelson right downtown opposite Louisville Slugger. I hope people come visit us sometimes. And that's open to the public. And, we literally get visitors from all over the world. And, we started with, 5 days a week and tours half the size we have now. Now we're 6 days a week, going towards 7 days a week with double the size tours. And, people reserve. And, I almost feel bad sometimes because I get calls where people can't get in. And obviously we try to help them get in. But it's just amazing to see the interest. And it really, I think that the bourbon industry is really a great calling card around the world for Louisville. I could be in Shanghai, I can be in Melbourne, I could be in Paris, and people are asking me all these questions, and they want to visit Louisville to see the Bourbon Trail. And Louisville is an amazing city. We have attractions here. You have things like obviously you have the Parklands. You have things like the Ali Center. You have a Fraser Museum. You have just Churchill Downs, and I go on and on and on. It's just such a wonderful city. But one of the things that really draws people from all over the world is the bourbon industry, and we just feel very proud to be a small part of it.
No question, Joe. We talk often here about how even through COVID, I think the bourbon industry saved Louisville in a sense and continues to be such, as we have said a million times, an economic winner. It is definitely that. Now, there's the other side of the coin, though, that I wanted to talk to you about. There is a lot of product out there on the market, and it seems like every day I'm picking up, whether it be the CJ or maybe one of the periodicals that pertains to the liquor industry or spirits industry, there seems to be a new bourbon every other day. Your thoughts on that? Because I think if it were as easy as just, hey, I'm going to open up my doors, I'm from Louisville, I'm going to sell some bourbon, it's very competitive. I mean, but from your perspective, your thoughts?
Look, there are a lot of people in the industry doing really great work. And I have a lot of friends at the other companies, and it's like I said, it's an industry I genuinely feel lucky to work in, and I think in general the people in the industry, and especially in Louisville and Kentucky, have been great. You know, I think that we may be entering a period of adjustment. After COVID, during COVID, sales went up substantially, and I think that there's a bit of an adjustment back to like pre-COVID levels. The other thing too that you have to realize is that interest rates are at historic highs. And when interest rates are at historic highs, number one, people are paying more for their mortgages and their credit cards and their loans. And businesses, retailers that were happy to keep more stock have to really watch their stock now when interest rates are so incredibly high. So I think it's a period of adjustment. Long term, I am very optimistic about the Kentucky bourbon industry, even though it has grown abroad, the market share for Kentucky bourbon abroad compared to the market share for Scotch is quite small, and I think there's a tremendous growth opportunity abroad. But it's going to take time. It's not all going to happen fast.
I'll tell you, I'm really bullish on Michter's. I absolutely love it. So on a much lighter note, before I let you go here, talk to people about the experience that is at Fort Nelson, right here in downtown Louisville, Museum Row, beautiful architecture, a building, I think, and an experience that really is indicative of what you want Michter's to represent, which is excellence. And it just has this vibe and warmth and beauty and an experience with your friends. Talk to us about that and invite folks, if you would, Joe, because it really is neat.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, we're very proud of Michter's Fort Nelson. Like I said, it's right opposite Louisville Slugger Bat Factory on West 8th and Main. It's a gorgeous, Louisville has a lot of amazing architecture, and it's a gorgeous building. It was in worse shape than we expected when we bought it. The west wall, the brick at the top, was 23 inches bowing out of place, which made a quite dangerous situation. But working with the city, which was great, and working with a National Park Service, and working with Frankfurt Landmarks, we were able to do an 8-year renovation. It took us 8 years, but we're very proud of how it came out. It's a really great place. It's well located. We have a nice gift shop there. We have educational tours where we teach people about bourbon in general and how we make Michter specifically. And then we have a world-class cocktail bar upstairs, curated by Dr. Dave Wondrich, who is one of the leading authorities in the world on spirits and cocktails. Oxford University actually picked him to be the editor-in-chief of their Guide to Spirits and Cocktails. Yeah. And so, we love having people visit. We love meeting our friends there. We love meeting new friends there, and it'd be wonderful. We love having people visit us.
Joe, on behalf of the city, business leaders, the mayor has told me how happy they are, because I am happy to announce you are now a proud Louisville resident. You like Louisville so much that you actually moved here.
I love it.
See, I love hearing that, because you're such a gentleman, and I think a great ambassador for the city of Louisville and for America, and of course the bourbon industry. So, Joe, again, thank you so much for your time. Enjoyed it.
So appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Joe Magliocco, again, on Louisville Focus. We appreciate his time. And once again, I want to remind you, Fort Nelson, downtown Louisville, right across from the Bat Museum. Visit them today. It is quite the experience. I know we all love the summer and summer fun, but when the temperature rises, so do the chances of safety issues rising as well. So let's talk about that with an expert. She is with the Louisville Fire Department. She is Tamara Stewart. She is a Captain Stewart. Captain, first of all, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so temperatures on the rise. We all love summer fun. But this is when your job could get a little bit, let's just say, more challenging, because there are issues you don't have to deal with the rest of the year. So let's talk about that a little bit. You were telling me beforehand that there's a certain segment of the population that may even have more of a challenge or an issue, right?
Correct. So vulnerable population are children, young children particularly, elderly, houseless individuals, construction workers that have to work in the heat and they don't get the same opportunity to get in the shade or into an air-conditioned area. So all of those people we're concerned with. And some people take certain types of medication that make them more susceptible to heat-prone illness or sunburns or those types of things.
So Captain Stewart, let's talk a little bit about the importance of being proactive, because, you know, of course, as a father, I'm used to, okay, sunscreen and hydration and all that, but it goes a little bit deeper than that, although that's important. Talk a little bit about what we can do to get ahead of this.
Sure, hydration is probably one of the biggest and easiest things that we can control. So you want to make sure you're hydrating with water. We really want to avoid sugary sports drinks. So yes, we think of sports drinks as they replenish electrolytes. Just check that label, make sure that it's not laden with a bunch of sugar, because that doesn't help with our hydration. It is good to replace with electrolytes, so there's plenty of drink choices out there, sports drink choices, but stay away from those sugary drinks. Avoid caffeine, because caffeine is a diuretic, and you know that makes us lose more water. So the name of the game is really hydration. Stick with water and healthy electrolyte replacement drinks.
And you mentioned the fact, you know, children, and I think the issue would be is, you know, kids get caught up in the fun, and by the time they know something is wrong, then it may be too late. So parents who are watching you, Captain, and they wonder, okay, what can we do? What kind of signs should I look for, other than making sure they've got a lot of water and sunscreen? What things should I look for?
Sure. Just remember that kids are 3 to 5 times, they're going to feel that heat 3 to 5 times faster than you and I. Just their bodies are a little bit smaller and they can't auto-regulate quite the same way as a fully developed person. So just keep in mind, you know, shorter periods of time for your kids. Again, that hydration and lots of sunscreen. Give them opportunities to get into the shade. Take breaks if you can get to a splash pad or something like that. But really, what you want to start looking for in anybody, if they are sweating profusely, if they're complaining of dizziness or headache, and nausea can sometimes accompany this, that's a sign of heat exhaustion. So there's a lot of differences. There's heat cramping. So that's where your body's, you're kind of locking up a little bit, okay? And if you're outside playing or doing sports and you're experiencing heat cramps,
Felt that.
Yeah, then we say just, you know, stop your exercise or stop what you're doing, get in the shade, hydrate, take a break until those symptoms subside. Heat exhaustion is when you're sweating profusely, you're starting to feel dizzy, maybe a little bit of nausea. But heat stroke that's the bad thing. So at that point, you're no longer sweating. So if you notice your child or anybody around you that they're not even sweating anymore, that's a bad sign. So when it comes to heat stroke, and also with heat stroke, you can lose consciousness. So anytime somebody loses consciousness, you need to call 911 right away, and don't hesitate. So if you see someone with signs of heat stroke, the most important thing is to get, if you can, ice packs in their armpits, groin area, and neck area. You can spray them with water. Never give an unresponsive or an altered, someone that's just not really making a lot of sense, or they seem like they're not in the right mind. Don't try to give that person water to drink, because we don't want them to aspirate on it. So heat stroke is our bad thing. So if somebody stops sweating, and if they're losing consciousness or they're vomiting, don't hesitate. Call 911 and try to get them cooled off with ice packs or water. And
as you know, as a firefighter, it's about reacting quickly, because this can come upon you very fast. Okay, another health issue, another health challenge. We're coming up on July 4th, and everyone, once again, summer fun, you get caught up, it's all great, but bottom line is this, and we hear it again and again, but it happens every year for you. You see these accidents. Fireworks are dangerous.
Yes.
So talk to us about, first of all, I guess maybe fireworks to stay away from, and if you are going to participate, what can we do to be safe?
Sure. So just a reminder, in Jefferson County, anything that flies into the air or explodes is illegal. Okay, and there are ordinances that can be enforced, up to $500 fine. So, you know, we want fireworks. You know, everyone loves the 4th of July. Fireworks are a big part of that. But just remember, if it leaves the ground or explodes, that's illegal. So keep that in mind. So if you are going to partake in fireworks, remember sparklers are okay. Anything that stays on the ground, that's okay. But we're going to strongly suggest if you leave it to the professionals and go see a professional fireworks show, that's the safest way.
They have a license. They know the safety.
They've got distances, but you know, and it's the way they store their fireworks is all within compliance. So all of these different factors, we always stress fireworks are the most fun and the safest when you go see professional shows. But if you are going to partake in fireworks at home, legal, again, within the legal types of fireworks, you need to be at least 200 feet away from any structure or vehicle. So you don't want something to, you know, get into a roof or some dry brush or underneath a vehicle. Never modify your fireworks. So don't try to mess with the fuse. Don't try to make them stronger. Don't do any of that. Just the way they come from the manufacturer. Do not alter them any way, shape, or form. You are supposed to be the age of 18 or older to handle fireworks. So unfortunately, the population that experiences the most firework-related injuries are ages 10 through 14. So most of these injuries are happening to our kids that are less than 15 years old. And we've got a lot of hand injuries, eye injuries, and face injuries. And I just think to myself, if I had a 10-year-old child, I would never want them, in the spirit of good fun, to let them hold a sparkler and then something go wrong and it alters their vision for the rest of their life. So really, fireworks, they can be very dangerous. We understand the allure, we understand that they're fun, but just remember, the safest way to enjoy fireworks is to go see one of these free shows that we have around our city.
That's good advice, Captain Stewart. You know, you mentioned kids and the safety of kids, but on another aspect of children is, and something that I know you hear a lot, is they really look up to firefighters. There's so many little boys and little girls who say, I want to be Captain Stewart. I want to do what you do. So with that being said, hey, you know, if the day comes and you're of age and you have an interest, you know, you are recruiting. You are, you know, this is something that's important. You want to do this? This is an admirable job. So talk a little bit about recruiting and the size of the Louisville Fire Department.
Sure. So we have just shy of 500 members, and we are currently open for applications through July 5th. So the day after Independence Day, make sure you get your application in. Our minimum requirements are that you be 18 years or older, have a high school diploma or GED, and a valid driver's license. So you don't have to have any previous experience as a firefighter or an emergency medical worker. We will train you. So that's one of the great things I think about being a Louisville firefighter, is that you don't have to have any college, you don't have to have any previous experience. So it's literally your motivation and your tenacity and a desire for an adventurous job. How's that?
There we go. I like that.
But we'll train you. We'll teach you everything you need to know. So our starting salary currently is a little bit over $55,000. You start earning that on day one of the Fire Academy. We have health, vision, dental, life insurance, and a lot of room for promotion. So every year we have multiple people retiring, and so that means there's a lot of room to take that sergeant's test and that captain's test and to become a battalion chief. And our chief, all of our chief staff, they all started out as a recruit firefighter. So you too can, maybe you're the next fire chief and you don't even know it yet.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
A very physical job though, because you're a piece of steel. I'm not messing with you.
It is very physically demanding, but I always tell people, you know, just to give you an idea, I'm 5'10", I weigh 150 pounds. Being a female, I have a little bit less innate upper body strength than some people, but I was able to train. Yes, I did lift heavy weights, and you can see I'm not a giant, you know, monster. I'm not the incredible.
But in some ways, that's best. You move very quickly, and that's important too. Yes.
And so that's the other thing with this job. It isn't just brute strength that's important, but cardiovascular endurance and muscular endurance. So the fire might go out in 10 minutes, or it might take 4 hours, and you need to be able to work at your maximal output for however long it takes for the fire to go out. So it isn't just one type of strength or one type of conditioning. We're looking for kind of all-around athleticism. So, but it's very rewarding, and like you said, one of my favorite things, it might sound a little silly, driving around the city and when kids wave at us and we give them a wave and a honk, or they see us at Kroger and they come tour the fire truck. And so it's a rewarding career, and it is very physically demanding, but it's kind of a badge of honor as well. When you, if you know you're tough enough to be a firefighter, you've worked hard to earn that.
Well, I admired you and your profession as a kid, and I admire you as an adult, Captain Stewart, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Once again, Tamara Stewart. She is Captain Tamara Stewart of the Louisville Fire Department on Louisville Focus.